Hello crafty friends, this is the Paper Chef here. In today's Brother Scan and Cut Tips and Tricks tutorial, you are going to learn how to cut out stamped images with your SDX125. You can follow along with whichever model of Scan and Cut you already have. This stamp set I'll be using is called Jar of Flowers. It's by Stampin Up and it is in our new catalog, the 2020-2021 annual catalog. It will be available to you, my customers, on June 3rd. And my team members, most of you already have this, and I know a lot of demonstrators watch my channel, so a lot of you got this in your pre-order because I think it was like a must-have. Everyone pretty much got this. So there are some of you that can follow along now, and the rest of you can put this on your wish list because this is a stamp set that no matter if you like flowers or not, remember, you're sending cards to people. They like flowers, okay? So you make things for other people, bless other people with your crafts, and you're gonna want this stamp set. So if you're new to my channel, one thing you'll know about my channel is I don't show you the projects until the end, okay, of the end of my tutorial. But what the outcome of this is 2 shaker cards, okay? I'm gonna cut out this one and this one because if you learn how to cut out these 2 flowers here, it's going to be, you're going to be able to apply the concepts to be able to cutting out these tulips and this set over here, okay? So we're cutting out this one and this one because this one is not tricky, the little sunflowers, and this one is very tricky. Okay, so let me bring that closer. Why is this one very tricky? When you have images with lots of gaps in them, the Scan and Cut cannot scan that. It'll go inside. It'll start going inside every gap, and it'll make a hot mess. It'll start cutting the inside of flowers. It won't recognize this as one image. We want this to be recognized as one image. We need to enclose the gaps with my pencil trick. Okay, this one you don't really have to do anything to, but it's hit or miss, and once in a while I have to fix this little leaf right here. But other than that, I don't have to do anything to this image. So let's get stamping because I want you to understand start to finish how to do this process. These are acrylic stamps, meaning they're see-through, which is great for this jar because you can just, you know, place them onto a paper and you can see through and put them on a block. Okay, so there are 2 kinds of stamps we sell, actually 3. I don't know if we're going to keep selling wood block. I can't remember. I think we might, but I know we sell acrylic or photopolymer stamps, so like they're see-through. Then we sell cling stamps, which are rubber, and then we also have wood mounted stamps for backgrounds. I can't remember if we're going to still have those, but so be it. So this one is a great way because you can see through it. So when you have a big stamp like this kind of stamp that's bigger, when I say big, it is bigger than your ink pad, meaning if you try to ink this up, your ink pad, it will not, like, don't ink it up like this. My point is don't ink it up like that because it doesn't cover your ink pad. Or what am I saying is, it's the ink pad is smaller than the stamp, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. The ink pad is smaller than the stamp. So this is the way to ink up a stamp like that. You turn it upside down and you ink it up. And you know you're done inking when, if this was really juicy, it wouldn't have taken so long to ink. But you know after you tap, 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 that it's done inking when you lift it up and you can see all the black lines of the image. Okay, so that's when you know you're done. I'm going to put it on not too close to the edge of the mat because, you know, some of my, oh, that was not a good stamp. We'll do it again. I wanted to do it again anyway. We won't use that one. It's only paper, it's only ink. Oh, look at this. I'm already getting stuff on my nice Whisper White cardstock. By the way, I use Whisper White cardstock and Memento black ink. So sometimes when I have trouble with a stamp like such as this, I take out my little sponge, put that under I have a stamping sponge. We also have what's called a stamping piercing mat. They're not available at the very moment, but they'll be available soon. And the Paper Chef has to move on, mistakes and all, because you know what? If I re-recorded the videos every time I made a mistake, I would never get anything done. All right, so we have one good one. This one will just be one that doesn't scan well, and that's okay because I have one good one. And then we'll do this one twice because you never know. I'm going to do it twice because this is the one that's not going to work probably, with both ones evenly. All right, so now we're going to do these flowers. So we do nothing to that one. And by the way, that's upside down. I had to figure it out when I was making my shaker cards. I was like, what's the top? What's the bottom? That's the top. I just go by the picture in the stamp set. So now I'm going to ink up this one. Good practice, right? And it really doesn't matter if they're upside down because we're just cutting them out. This is the Scan and Cut. And that wasn't even all the way on the sponge and it still worked. Well, not bad. Trying not to get into that black smudgy mark. I'm a very, very messy crafter. And I know I craft all the time, but I never really clean up from one project and start the next project. So lately I've been working on paper pumpkin kit, and then I opened my second kit, so then I put this on the back burner, and now I'm like, I have to play with my new products and see how they work with the Scan and Cut. You know, because I just, curiosity, right? All right, so that's it. Now, you do have to clean these off, and we have, you know, Stampin' scrubs, we have cleaners, we have chamois, you can use wipes. I mean, there's so many ways to clean it. So forget about that one. That one is just sacrificial stamp. We're not going to mess with that. So this one here, the only thing you need to do to these sunflowers, the only thing I needed to do is just this little leaf was the only thing giving me trouble. There's a little open gap, and I went something like that. I just drew a little line around this leaf, and that was pretty much it. And I got it to scan out perfectly every time. And I tried it with 2 different models of machine. Okay, I tried it with the CM350, and I tried it with the SDX125 because I get asked a lot about the CM350 or Scan and Cut 2, and it worked the exact same way, and I didn't have to do anything except fix that little leaf. Okay, for this one I had lots of trouble because of all the gaps. So the question you might be asking, and I get asked this all the time, is why don't you just color it in? Because if you color it in, the colors will not leave any gaps. Well, they still left lots of gaps. I tried that, and I usually don't color. There's many reasons I don't color. And by the way, I'm just filling in all the gaps right now. There's many reasons I don't color, but one is that it still doesn't fill in all the gaps unless they're really dark colors. 2 is not all stamped images come out correctly. And in one of the cases, like I got done coloring this whole thing, and then like this part I couldn't see, but like all these didn't come out. So like the whole image didn't come out correctly. And another time is sometimes, like if you color outside the lines, then that's what gets scanned. So if you color, like if you mess up this leaf and color outside, then it makes this little nib outside of your stamped image. So the best way, I want the black lines to be outlined. The black lines. So that's what I want. I want a clean cut. And the cleanest cut you're going to get with the black lines is going to be when you don't color first. And there's another reason I don't color. And it was sometimes this paper slips while you're scanning and cutting. And then it messes up. So you spent like 10 minutes coloring this, and then all of a sudden the paper slipped. Okay, so do you notice the difference between the gaps enclosed in this one and the gaps that are not enclosed in this one? Okay, see all those gaps? This is what I enclosed. I enclosed this gap. I'm going to go ahead and leave this open for training, just for purposes of this tutorial. This one will not scan in well. This one's definitely not going to scan in well. Look at all those gaps because it's a light stamp. And even if it does, I don't want it. Poor little thing. You're rejected. You are not a good stamp. All right. So anyway, that's not going to scan well. This one should, but if it doesn't, you'll see me troubleshoot because I like to keep it real. So I'm just looking right now. I missed that one. Okay, so I'm just enclosing the marks with a pencil. Let's see. I mean, maybe I didn't get them all. It took me a few tries to get them all. I think I counted like 12 spots you must enclose. But then this time it looked like even more. All right, I'm happy with it. It looks pretty enclosed to me. Don't erase with the red side of your pencil. Okay, only erase with, oop, my camera's shaking. Only erase with this kind of eraser. I'll have a link to it, but just erase with a white eraser. You can get them at any office supply store if those are open now. All right, so I will just go ahead and make this smaller. I mean, I don't want to scan in this whole big white piece of paper. And there's a couple reasons for that. I want to show you how to select. I'm going to show you how to get rid of the spots that get scanned in when your mat's really dirty like mine is. And because if I just use a big white piece of paper, you won't be able to troubleshoot as much. All right, so here we go. Moving my machine closer. Let's clean up this table because there's not much room from earlier. All right, see how dirty my mat is? But it doesn't matter. I don't like it to be lumpy though. It can be dirty, but not lumpy. I need to wash off the paper. You can wash off the paper and re-stick your mat. I do it all the time. Okay. The other thing, even though I didn't just re-stick my mat. It's been a couple weeks. And I use this a lot. So, but you should, if your mat's not very sticky, just use a little piece of painter's tape Don't cover the registration marks, but use some painter's tape to hold your stamped images down. All right, so now I've already loaded my mat. I'll show you what button I use for that. And making sure everything's on my... I just did what's called a scanning cutting position adjustment, and I want to link to that for you all too, because if you haven't done that in a while, what happened is the first time I cut these out, this is what we're going for. We're going for something like this. I just think there wasn't the right amount of even white space around the top and bottom. This one's pretty good. So I did an adjustment. And so that's what I just did, adjustment so that they would come out with the right amount of even white space around them. Okay, it's called the scanning cutting position adjustment, and I'll have a link to that video. I just got done finishing that. You have to do that a few times with the SDX, not just once, a few times. With the CM350, you can get it done in one time, one pass, because you can actually do some manual adjustment. All right, so here's what you see when you turn on your machine. Okay, crafty friends, you have a scan and cut. You turn it on, you're going to see pattern and scan. You want to cut out stamped images. You're going to cut out stamped images by clicking on scan. But one thing, if you're new to the scan and cut, the way I loaded my mat was this button here. I'm having one of those mat days where I'm leaving it loaded. I'm not unloading it. I'm just leaving it loaded. So that's the mat. That's the button to load your mat. You can leave it loaded all day. If you're ever having trouble, just leave it loaded all day. So, oops, I shouldn't skip any steps. And go back to the home button. I like to always talk about what I'm doing, and let me turn out this extra light, okay, because you can see the screen better. All right, so you turn on your machine, you see pattern and scan. Pattern means built-in patterns, okay? That's the built-in patterns. We don't want those. We want to scan in the stamped image. So whether you have pattern paper or stamped images, or in a future tutorial, I'll actually talk about this jar punch and scanning that in. No matter what, if you have something on your mat, you're going to use this one, the scan button. So we want to do scan. We want to directly cut out these stamped images. We're not going to save them for any reason. We don't need to save them. We're just going to directly cut them out. So we're going to click direct cut. And we're going to select, this is a temporary storage. I'm hooked to my wireless network, so I have two options. You might not have two options. You might only have, you want to store it on your machine. I have also the option, do I want to store it in Canvas? This is just temporary. It doesn't matter. You don't really need to store it there. Just use your machine. Because if you store it wirelessly, then you also have to make sure that's all connected and that's all set up right. And in the SDX models, we have options of the scan area. So the area I want is 12 by 6 recognition area, because I put the two stamped images on the top half of my mat. So that's why I want the 12 by 6. Recognition mode is either color or black and white. Even if I had colored these, well, in one case, not so much. Let's just go show you this for a second. If you have good contrast, like I do now, it's just black and white. I'm using black and white recognition mode. But even if I had colored them, if there's still good contrast, you can leave it on black and white recognition mode. Very rarely do I have to use color recognition mode, unless there's lots of gradation of color, like skin tones and things. Little arms of the witches, little arms of the mermaids. When I was trying to do those pattern papers, little things, and they had like bodies that were, the skin tones kind of blended in with the background and there wasn't a lot of contrast. That's the only time I ever needed color recognition mode. So it scans in the top half of the mat and you say, okay, now I'm expecting the bottom two not to come out because I told you why. We didn't use the pencil trick. I'm expecting the top two to come out. So I actually got 3 out of 4, which is good. Now remember I talked about being a hot mess? Look at that hot mess. First one, I'll tell you something. The first thing is my mat is dirty. So let's get rid of this whole area. We definitely don't want that. We want to concentrate on this area here. So let's zoom in, not zoom in. We're going to make a selection with these arrows. I'm just leaving that one just like that for a moment. You can ignore object size to get rid of some of these smaller objects. But let me just zoom in and show you what happened here. Okay? The bottom one, we did not use the pencil trick. Okay? The top one, it's probably going to be okay. It did go in there and it did get some of the inside bits. However, once we start ignoring object sizes and get rid of the small ones, we can actually salvage the top one most likely. But we can't salvage that. Too much of the inside has been selected. Okay, so, and this one I don't want because I didn't stamp it right. And also that little leaf, remember that little leaf? I said you better use the pencil on that little leaf. Let me show you the leaf. this leaf here. Remember that? I said use the pencil, because if not, you get this little messy area. So the top two are pretty good to me. I'm going to say okay. And you might be thinking this is taking a long time, but I cut out so many of these already, and it really doesn't take a long time once you get used to this. And if you're making a lot of shaker cards and projects, you're going to want these to be separate elements because they're going to float on top of your jar. I have to explain the whole thing through visual examples. All right, so now I have the area. I want this area here. I don't want those bottom two, but I did need them to show you because of teaching purposes. So we're going to go to ignore object size. And now this is just me getting rid of any unwanted bits. So one way to get rid of unwanted bits is to make a selection around the area you want to scan. Another way is to just ignore small objects. Okay, and when you ignore small objects, it'll get rid of smaller objects on your screen. I'm just going to go less than an inch for now because I just want to get rid of the little stray bits. Okay, and then lastly, I want to try to get this all to be one big outlined image. So I'm going to go in here and add an outline distance. And that fixed my problem. And what was my problem? Let me show you my problem. That I didn't ignore enough objects, meaning I didn't get all of these little guys were separate elements. Even though I had used a pencil trick, I haven't erased this one yet. Some of this got selected, some of that got selected. Until you add that outline distance, you're not forgiven. These would have cut out separately. Let me just go back and show you what I mean. This is a very important troubleshooting tip, and it'll save you so much frustration in the future. If I don't add an outline distance, you are left with a big hot mess. What if you don't want an outline distance? Well, there's another way. You're going to make a better solid line. But in this case, when you have this little mess, you need to add the outline distance to get rid of that mess, because now it's all one big outlined image. Okay, there are times when you don't want an outline distance, but I always have one. I think it adds dimension. I love it. I like coloring inside the lines and then having that extra little white border. I mean, you'll see why. It does really add something to it. But if you don't want them, that's fine, but not for this image. It's not fine. You would have had to do a lot more work with your pencil. All right, we say okay. And the third way to edit out your unwanted bits is if you still had stray bits. Even after ignoring object size and making your selection, if you still had stray bits, you can go in and edit them out and use the little trash can in here to edit them out. But we're not going to do that. We're going to click OK. If you are using a machine that you have a blade, that has to have a blade depth, I'm using Whisper White and you would use a blade depth of 4. However, I am right now using what's called the auto blade technology. I'm using the SDX. I have no numbers on my blade. See that? No numbers. You can't set a blade depth with this. It does it automatically. Okay, so I'm just cutting it. That's all I'm doing is cutting. But if you're following along with another model, you're going to click on blade depth of 4. So you click OK and you say cut. Or you click on that option, I'm sorry, and you say cut. Now we're going to click OK, and it's only going to take a minute, so we're waiting for it. We're not going to, reset the camera, and I'm not going to edit this out. I'm just going to make you wait for it, because when it says 1 minute, that's just an estimate. It'll take less than a minute, so now you can see what it's doing. I'm so used to things slipping off my mat that even while it's cutting, I get this. I'm in the habit of just sort of like rubbing my paper, making sure nothing slips. I mean, there's tape there, and I'm still rubbing my paper. I know how to restick my mats, and I still rub my paper. I just have this thing about wanting these cuts to come out very cleanly. And despite all my efforts, they don't always stick. But I do the best I can. And like I said, it's only paper, so we're not worried about it. And then we're going to just use our little spatula here to get these off the mat. Okay, so we're going to go click OK. So it's done cutting. Okay, finish cutting. We click OK. We're not going to unload the mat because I'm having one of those mat days. But this is how you would unload the mat. Okay, this is how you would unload the mat with that button there. Make sure that button's in my view of the camera. There, that button. Now, okay, so pretend you've unloaded your mat. Okay, you're all with me. And you peel off the paper. Save this because it's good for if you have punches, and these are good scraps. You can cut off this band of Whisper White, cut off that. I just punch out extra shapes. That's why I love my punches. And that's what I do with my extra paper. Because I'm not going to try to scan and cut those little areas. So here's what we're going to do to get it off the mat. We're going to get in there with our little spatula. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Okay, I have to kind of scrape because like I said, I just did restick, so that one's good. Good, good, good. And that one is good. So now I'm going to show you about coloring, some little bit about coloring. And a little bit about erasing. So let me push this all the way off. All the way up here. I'm going to turn that to the side so the mat is not in the way. And I will get my handy little placemat here. Okay, so if this is after June 3rd and you're watching this, or actually if you're a demonstrator from any country, anywhere, you can go, I mean, anyone can go to my blog and check out some of the descriptions here. Okay, some of the descriptions and settings and all that. But if it's after June 3rd, you could be even ordering this. And if you're a demonstrator, you can get it now as part of your pre-order. I think you can get one of these, one of the punches, because it's not consumable. We're allowed to get more things that are consumable, like 2 packs of the new color paper, but only one if it's consumable, or if it's not consumable like this. All right, so you can get this. But before you start coloring, these are the ones I did earlier. You need to do your erasing, because you can't erase later after you start coloring. I mean, you don't want to erase later. So I like to erase from like the inside out so that it doesn't bend and rip my paper. And then I like to take my extra painter's tape, right? And see how it's kind of, the Whisper White's very fibrous, by the way. I'm going to turn on my lights. Very fibrous paper. So it sticks to the mat, it sticks to the tape. So I used to clean up my little eraser marks with it before I throw it away. I like to reuse all my little sticky things, whether it's my sticker machine or what have you, because I like to just kind of clean up with them and then I get rid of them. Okay, so that's good. Now I've got rid of all the eraser marks. These two are good. These are ones I did earlier as examples. Nice amount of white space around the outsides of them. This one takes a little bit more work. Instead of trying to figure out where the eraser marks are, because there's just, like I said, there was probably 14 of them, it's best to just erase around the edges and then you'll get all the marks. But Paper Chef, they don't look bad. Why erase them? Well, because Stampin' Up! Has artists that they have on their staff, and they're very talented, and maybe, I don't know if they're all on the staff or contracted, but I know we have artists that design these stamp sets. And if they want gaps in the flowers, then you have to keep the gaps in the flowers. That you have to go back to the true essence of the artwork from the author of this, or the designers. Because if not, you're not having you're not going to get the right thing out of this, the right reaction. And the reaction you want is like people to go, oh my gosh. And that's what Stampin' Up! Does. Like, people see these things and they're like, oh, it coordinates so well. Oh, wow, this is amazing. It's because of the artwork and the coordination and everything. See, so look at that versus this. I'm not going to erase this one because you don't need to see me erase all day long. But you know what I mean? It's just a little bit different. Having the gaps. They wanted the gaps. The gaps are not there as a conspiracy against us Scan and Cut owners. The gaps are there because that's the way the artwork, a lot of artwork is done like that, with little gaps. Okay, and that one, I'm going to erase that later. In fact, I'll turn it over to remember to do something to it later. All right, so there we are. Now we have it. So ready to do some coloring, and I don't have the new ink colors yet. Nobody does. I mean, maybe they do in other countries, but in the United States, we weren't able to get them yet. And one of the new ink colors is called Bumblebee. And it looks like this. Okay, I cut out some stickers earlier. Some of these stickers from this is the Memories and More, or not Memories and More. This is the new ink color cardstock. So anyway, so I have what's called Crush Carry. So I might not have Bumblebee, but I thought, right? Look at this. That's pretty close. And especially for the background cards, it matched. So I said, okay, I'm going to use Crush Carry. That's because we can't get Bumblebee yet. And Crush Carry will make a nice sunflower. So I open up. Did you see how I did that? I get asked that too. Okay. I get asked about the ink and everything. So to open up one of the new ink pads, new style, it's been a couple years now, there's a little lip there, and you go like that. Okay? You put your thumb in there and push up. Flip it over, and then, oops, it's really light now. Okay, and then you have to flip it over, and then you push it back. Okay, that's how you open up the ink pads. So what I'm using is a blender pen, because I don't want to just color directly. When I color directly onto those, well, let me just go back. I would rather use it all the time. 100% I'd rather color with Stampin' Blends. These are Stampin' Blends. These are my Stampin' Blends markers. However, I don't have any in Crush Carry. I guess they didn't even make them in Crush Carry. Not that I know of. So I don't have that. So then you're thinking, oh, well, just use your marker. Here's my marker, and I have a Crush Carry marker. Okay, well, that didn't work. I tried that. It was too dark. So when you have, so then I could have used a watercolor pencil, but then I didn't stamp in the right color ink or the right type of ink. If I was going to use watercoloring, I wouldn't have stamped in this in the first place. So you're left with, I either have to use the blends or the markers, and I'm left with, this is too dark. So that's where I came up with the blender pen. So the blender pen is just very simple to use. You just take off the lid, and it does look stained, but it's not. Well, it's stained from my Crush Carry because I didn't really clean it off. But it's just you're dipping into the ink, say like this. You're dipping into the edge of the ink. Or you could have put it on a block and make it even less dark, and you're just coloring in with this. So I'm just dipping and coloring, dipping and coloring. You don't have to see me do the whole thing. I have examples, but this is just kind of what I did, and there's no right or wrong way to color. And if you want to use other colors or blends, you know, maybe you can make some kind of combination with the other blends colors that will come out to something that will look like Bumblebee. But I thought that looked pretty close to Bumblebee by using the blender pen. Now notice I didn't fully color it in. See, that's Bumblebee again, not bad. All right, now what I did is I took, so to clean off your blender pen, this is a blender pen, is you just go like that, see, until you kind of get rid of all the ink. I probably shouldn't clean it so much because I want to use it again. I'm going to be coloring the rest of my sunflowers, but you know, for teaching purposes. Okay, and it's pretty cleaned off, but that's all. This is sort of like a, I don't know what kind of solution's in it. You get them in a pack of 3. They're called blender pens. I love blender pens. All right, so what I did to make it sort of, I kind of colored it rough, and then I took the So Saffron Dark. This is So Saffron. This is just a alcohol marker now. This is called the Stampin' Blend, and I just sort of filled in any little gaps with the white in there. That way I got the color I wanted, the Crush Carry, that looks like Bumblebee, but then I filled in all the little gaps with a little bit lighter color, giving it sort of that watercolor look. Okay, so that's how I did it. And then I used light So Saffron for these. So this was dark So Saffron. I used light So Saffron, and all the blends markers have a thick side and they have a thin side. So I took the thin side, and that's what I did for these. I did some light So Saffron on those flowers up there, on those petals, and then I did all the little other ones in Crush Carry. And then I did some little shaded spruce on these little twigs. The ones that I erased, remember that little twig I erased? That's what I did. I used some little bit of shaded spruce. Kind of hard to even see anything to color. You're just sort of coloring along the line. I mean, there's really no holes there. There's not really any holes to color in, but I just used little shaded spruce on these little leaves out here. So now you know how I colored that one. And I did that whole thing. And then I took the inside and I used, see what I got going on this tray. These are really cool storage trays because they're made for blends, and they, see, check out these storage trays. They're like, they're made, and they go like, they're pretty cool. I think they come in a set of 5, and each tray has 6 in there. I better zoom out so you can see my storage tray. Pretty cool, blend storage. These aren't how I store them. I store them in color. I do like all the bottom row is yellows, and then it goes to oranges. But this is like when I'm working on a project, I take them out, I put them in my extra storage trays to work on my project. So the projects I'm working on with these shaker cards involve all these colors. That's why they're in the trays right now. All right, I digress. Where's the crumb cake? I think this is the crumb cake. Here, dark crumb cake. So that's how I colored in the inside of the sunflowers. I used dark crumb cake. Okay, like that. Done, done, so simple. Okay, and if you want to lighten it up, you use a color lifter. A color lifter can lighten up a color, or I could have just used light crumb cake to begin with. But that's how I did that one. And then this one, this is how I did this one. I used this new, I'm using for my shaker cards, the Flowers for Every Season card pack, which I went over in my unboxing. And one of my unboxings, I'm gonna have a third part of my unboxing. Maybe I'll have that before this is even published. All right. Bottom line is, let me just show you those for a second, because you might be wondering, like, what is she talking about? Why is she using the colors she's choosing? Like, I'm not just randomly choosing colors. There's this Memories and More. This is the Flowers for Every Season. That's where that punch came from. Not the punch. I haven't even shown you the punch yet. This is where this punch comes from. This is what I used to make my shaker cards with, the jar punch. Okay, so there's the jar punch. Then the stamp set I'm using, this one, comes from the same suite. Okay, jar of flowers. Okay, so do these Memories and More card pack. This Memories and More card pack. And I looked on the back of this cards, looked on the back of the Flowers for Every Season paper, I should say. And one of the coordinating colors, I was like, oh, what's that? And I was thinking it was Poppy Parade, but it said it's Poppy Parade. So I said, oh, good, because I'm using these envelopes and things that go with this. So that's where I came up with Poppy Parade. I didn't just pull it out of the thin air. These are Poppy Parade blends. And so they therefore go with what I'm doing. They go with the thing I'm doing. So I took the dark. I'm not going to color every flower, but I'm just going to show you. So I took the thin side of the dark one. So that's the dark Poppy Parade. And I just went around. Let's do the big flower. Not even the whole flower. Just to give you an idea, I go dark to light. So I went like that, and I don't do the whole flower at once. I do like sections of it. Okay, and in this case, I just kind of did the inside light. So something like that. And before it dries, before it sets, you need the light Poppy Parade. And you do in circular motions. See, I'm using the thin side. You could use the thick side, the brush side. In fact, my thin side's really wearing out. I better use the brush side. What I mean by look how light that is, that's wearing out, meaning I need another one. But someone said, I don't know who, it's always they said, somebody said I can put some alcohol in these to get them to freshen up again. So I don't know where I read that, but I might try a little alcohol just to get that side. And of course I'm not going to pour the alcohol on the side I'm brushing with. I'm going to pour the alcohol into the chambers in the middle once I open it. Okay, so that's why I did that. And then I chose light Calypso Coral for these flowers up here, just because I found out that it went with Poppy Parade, but it doesn't really go with the suite I'm using, but it went with Poppy Parade, and that was important because I wanted the elements to sort of go together. And then I used what's called I used the light shaded spruce for the leaves. This is light shaded spruce, because shaded spruce went with some of the forest paper last week, and that went with, I had some Forever Forest, I think it's called, and then it went with that, and there was some Just Jade in there, and it had some shaded spruce, and shaded spruce and Just Jade seem to match really well together. And I don't have the Just Jade yet. That's a new color. So instead I just sort of went like this with the Granny Apple Green. I took the light shaded spruce and the light Granny Apple Green, and I blended them. And I thought that's kind of like a Just Jade. I mean, it's not the same, but it's kind of like it. And that's how I did that. Okay, so you know Poppy Parade, Calypso Coral, Shaded Spruce, and Granny Apple Green. That was just what I chose to use. Let me look at my project real quick before I show you to see if there were any other colors. Yes, there was a little bit of Shaded Spruce up here. I used Shaded Spruce by itself. Oh, don't use that side. That side's too thick. The thin side of the Shaded Spruce I used for these little twigs or these little leaves. And then I used a little bit of So Saffron for these little, I don't know, I'm going to call them sprigs. These little sprigs. Okay, so that's how I did it. I'm not going to make you watch me color, but I can't wait to finish coloring them. I love coloring. I love coloring when I'm watching TV. I don't like coloring standing under a lamp. It'll hurt my eyes. And voila, we're ready to see the cards. So I talked about this new suite. There's so many things in the suite. I'm going to unbox the paper yet. I haven't done that yet, but I will have done it by the time you probably get to see this video, because this video has to upload, and that takes a very, very long time to upload, as opposed to a video that I do live, which will probably be there before I upload. So what I did is I took the Memories and More card packs. Okay, so let me just explain how I made these cards. Then I took these cards, Memories and More cards in envelopes, and I created shaker cards using this punch. So I wanted these little backgrounds to be the middle of my cards. So I took the punch and I went like that. Okay, I went like that. And what I really like about having a punch, because although there is a jar shape inside the stamp set, you saw it, I like using a punch because you can make so many things over and over. Look at this punch, and look at these Memories and More cards. They fit in there perfectly, and if you go right down to the edge and you hold your fingers there like that, then you can have a consistent design, and all you got to do is punch this out, and you have a consistent design that you can use for backgrounds over and over. Plus, I think these will make cute little samples to send out to customers when I send them a new catalog, like, hey, look at our new little jar punch. I just like having the little shapes. But this is a cool background. And now you're going to get to see what I mean, and I hope the light bulbs go on. The light bulbs go on because you're going to get to see now how does this all come together? How does this whole project come together? So let's start with the sunflower. My shaker cards. These are my 2 shaker cards. So in the Memories and More, in the suite, I should say, these are Memories and More. In the Flowers for Every Season suite, these are Memories and More Bumblebee cards and envelopes. I'm out of cards. As of this tutorial, I'm out of the 10 cards I was able to order. And this is a Bumblebee card. Okay, so this card came with this little dot, dot, dot around it. Dot, dot, dot all around the side. I punched a hole in it just like this on one of these cards. And look at that cool background. You already have an instant card. Okay, where did I get this from? In my unboxing in another suite called Tasteful something or other. I already forget the name of these dies. Something about taste. There were these dies, and I don't have the label handy. It's too far away. Wait, maybe it's not too far away. I want to tell you what I made these with. So that little, here we go. Tasteful Labels dies. This is going to be another new product. There is this amazing little die. Look at this little die. How cool is it? And when I unboxed it, I go, I wonder what that does. It makes a really cool hole in the paper for one, and it also makes a really, really cool little edge, which would be very hard to do with the Scan and Cut. Intricate things are better with metal dies than they are with the Scan and Cut. So I took one of these cards, this here, it said you inspire me. I put the die on top of it like that, and I ran it through my machine, my die cutting machine. Boom. And now I have 2 things I can use. Look at that cute little, here, I'll probably use that side. I'm not sure. No, yeah, definitely use this side because this side, I didn't make it wasn't an even circle. So I'll use that side, and look at that cute little message. You can put like something in the middle of there. Okay, so that's how that die worked. So that's where I got the You Inspire Me. Didn't have to stamp that. That's where I got that. You saw how I colored the flowers. Oh, and this was So Saffron, that light flower. Okay, how did I get this? We have this amazing thing in this suite. This amazing thing that I showed you. I showed you the jar punch. I showed you that. These are all new things. Everything, if you love everything here, you can either become a demonstrator and get these things now, even at it, as part of your starter kit, or you can wait till June 3rd and get them as a customer because they'll all be available, which is just around the corner. Mason jar shaker domes. How cool are these little things? So they stick on this side and they stick on that side, and that's how I made this little shaker card. And then I used, my first shaker card, I used something else, but look at these little things that look like little river rocks. And they are called, what are they called? Flowers for Every Season Gems. They are the Just Jade color, and they match perfectly with the bottom. Now look at that dimension. So then you're wondering, well, how did you get your flower? First of all, I hope you understand why we cut out the flowers with the Scan and Cut. We couldn't have done this without the Scan and Cut, unless you want to sit there with a pair of scissors all day long and try to get a beautiful even cut around the flower. So now you're wondering, how'd you get the flower to pop up like that? I use what's called Wobble Springs. They're not made by Stampin' Up. And I do have a link to them, and I'm going to show you what they look like. Here. They look like this. Okay, they're Wobble Springs. And people can say you can make them yourself, but I've tried, and no, I'd rather just buy them. Look at this cool Wobble Spring. So it made my flower go like that, and now you have a shaker card. So shake, shake, shake. Now you got the wobble. I mean, who wouldn't love this card? It's like a little fun little toy for someone. And it says you inspire me. And then these 3 things, these are stickers that came in this Memories and More pack. These little bottom things, the stickers are just, and these little dots are called the new in color enamel dots. Okay, so I don't know where they are at. They're already buried. All right, so here they are. Okay, there. Okay, so that's what those are. I've been using these on my paper pumpkin kit. These are our 5 new in colors, by the way. So we have Magenta Madness, Just Jade, Misty Moonlight, Cinnamon Cider, and Bumblebee. I finally got the colors right. That's the first time in 4 or 5 videos I got the colors right. Anyway, now, last shaker card. So what I was talking about in one of my unboxing videos is look at this new paper called Tasteful Textures. So I can just put these things on there. So that's when you see my photos, if you see my photos that I take of these, I'll be taking still photos. I'm going to be using these backgrounds here. These wood backgrounds. I don't want it to glare on my little jar. All right, my next jar is another season. I think it just looks like a whole another season because I used these other flowers as the background. Okay, I used this flower background. Same thing. You got your Wobble Spring, you got your flowers. That was Poppy Prayed. You saw how I colored it. And where did I get these gems? These gems are pretty awesome. They're from an old paper pumpkin kit. But I have a couple ideas for you for gems, or like little shakers. So one is to get the ones that come in our catalog. Okay, so one is, in fact, we have some that are going to be last chance items now. We have some little shakers. These are not available now in my store, and neither are these. So I'm just going to give you options. Although you can get these used, you know, you can get these ones used, but not, I'm talking about the Stampin' Up store. These are not at the Stampin' Up store. This is available June 3rd, and these are retired. I got these out of this kit. This is an old paper pumpkin kit, and look how many, you get loads and loads of these. Okay. And it's called, it was from here, 2016. Talk about being a hoarder. 2016. June 2016. Banner surprise. Loads of little gems, and I even poked a hole in it by accident, and you can make little banner cards, and there's twine, and there's, you know, washi tape. So that was a fun kit. And so what I do is for that picture, I'm taking some of this paper and I'm going like that, and here you can see it better because it's a dark. So this is the Misty Moonlight background now. The other one was Bumblebee background. This is Misty Moonlight with the 3 little in color gems, and I just want to show you where I got that and wrap things up, because I'm done with the tutorial and I'm done everything and I've showed you my examples, but I do need to show you where I got things. This is a great must-have stamp set. This is called a scene builder stamp set, and it's great for building scenes. I put my moose in the mountains. I use these mountains at Christmas time, put my moose in the mountains. This is a great little way to build scenes. I made this card at one of the workshops called a shoebox swap, and I made his card, and I haven't even ever used the card because I just love it as my example for what to do with this stamp set. Okay, that's waterfront. But anyway, I digress. This is where I got the sentiment from. I showed you where I got the dies from. The die is from Tasteful Labels Dies, and Friends Make Good Times Better. And where did I get that color that matches perfectly? Well, if you're one of my Paper Pumpkin subscribers, you do have a little bit of in color ink in the form of a Stampin' Spot. So this came in the Paper Pumpkin kit, and I just did a video about that kit. The kit was called a kit in color, and this little thing was what I used for Friends Make the Good Times Better. And look at how much that matches that. But that's where I got the sentiment from. Why? Because I actually had the shapes cut out ahead of time. I cut out the shapes to see what this die could do. And then it came to what sentiment do I have in my stash which would fit perfectly in that shape. So sometimes you just make a lot of shapes in Whisper White and you stamp them later. So that's one fit in there perfectly. So with this one, Love Never Gives Up would fit in there perfectly. And yeah, I think I'm not sure if that one would fit in there. Every little kindness makes the world brighter, but it would fit in a bigger sentiment. All right, so that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to cut out stamped images with your Scan and Cut. I hope you have lots of ideas swirling around. I plan on doing more with this suite, especially the Designer Series paper after I open it. So I hope you're going to get to watch my unboxings and get to see what kind of things came in my pre-order, so you know what new and exciting products are coming. And I will be trying out my new and exciting products with the Scan and Cut, and already have to some extent. That's all for now. This is the Papered Chef.